Welcome to Soulfull. Whether you're navigating challenges or celebrating victories,
We're here to remind you that every step on your path is meaningful. I'm Tiff,
and I'm Jess,
so let's clear our mind as we fill our soul.
So I actually don't really know how to start. I'll introduce me. My name is Jess, or Jessica. Lots of people call me Jess. And yeah, as you just heard in hopefully as you just heard in our intro, welcome to Soulful. I don't know, Tiff, did you want to like introduce yourself first before we get started?
Yeah, hi. I am Tiffany, but I most often go by Tiff. Either works for me. And I am Jess's partner in crime in this new adventure that is lighting both of us up right now. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, cool. Like just for everyone who's listening, if you've tuned in, yeah, we're really new to this. And so we are excited. We're coming with lots of good energy. I can feel it. And but yeah, just super new. So exploring the new world of podcasts and creation. For me, the technology piece, as Tiff can attest to, has been quite a learning curve. So, anyways, just in any case, just really grateful to be here. So, I'll just start. I'll just start by sharing kind of our why, I suppose. So, uh, Tiff and I met, it was 7 years ago,
Yeah.
almost eight, I guess, pretty close. Yeah.
Yeah.
So. We met through a mutual friend. Shout out to Leslie. And yeah, just I think really connected on a bunch of different levels. And so when I was living in Ottawa at the time, I got to spend a lot of in-person time together. And then since then, we've kind of moved to virtual connections, whether it's like phone or FaceTimes or those, yeah, I remember those like 8 hour FaceTime chats. Yeah, and so what's been really meaningful for me is just the space that we've been able to create together, right?
Yes.
And yeah, I guess about 6 months now or so ago that we started reconnecting through voice notes. I don't know if any of you all use voice notes, but if you don't, it's a great way to stay connected to people if you're, not in the same space. But anyways, so we connected through voice notes. And from that came, Tiff was talking about wanting to do a podcast. And I said, hey, like a podcast. And so, we started that dialogue, that conversation. And here we are 6 months later. Put lots of plans into action. And I'm just super, super thrilled, honestly. Really excited to be doing that. This is what I knew that I couldn't wait for us to, start recording, having conversations, creating a space, I think, for ourselves to really to connect and we always talk about our reciprocal relationship in terms of how much like we care and about each other, our wellness and also for our listeners too. Like I'm really excited to hopefully create that same space so people can
Mm.
kind of show up authentically and so you can bring your full selves the same as that I'm really going to do as well. And so I guess I'll move on to a little bit about the what kind of podcast or what kind of podcast is this going to be? And so we've went back and forth lots and lots on this. I think kind of talking about okay, what is it that we want to do? Who is it that we want to listen to? And I think one of the things that we always kind of came back to was this growth mindset, right? And wellness, I think too, are kind of
Hmm.
like, and I think they go hand in hand, right? I think they really go hand in hand. So I guess like a growth mindset, just for, folks who you might be tuning in and not really sure what a growth mindset, the concept is or what it means, but really, I think to me, anyways, this is what I define it as. It's kind of like that my abilities and that my I'll use intelligence, but and whether that's like knowledge or like emotional intelligence, I think can be developed through some hard work, right? Through the dedication and hard work, and not to take from our experiences, because sometimes, we all come with our own baggage. We were just talking about before we even started recording about, that big bag that we carry around sometimes. So we all come with that. So not to take away from it, but to really say, like, what can we learn from that? Like, what do I learn from my experiences, and how can I maybe let go of that bag sometimes,
Mm,
and keep being able to move forward. Um, so to make the connection, I guess, between growth mindset, and wellness, I guess, really comes around, wellness is not just about physical health, right? We hear about wellness a lot. And so not about physical health, but also, mental or emotional or spiritual well-being. And how does our mindset influence those things, right? How we might approach, our life, how might we approach our stress, our relationships, and our goals too. So when I think about growth mindset and wellness, I kind of see that connection.
yeah.
And so I guess to make a little bit of a personal connection here, as this is our first episode or a pilot, or I'm not sure what we're going to call it, but you all know before we do. So for me, I guess, I spent, geez, like a decade or a little bit more now into the field of wellness, I guess, being a helper. And unfortunately, I spent the first few years of that journey pouring more into other people than
Mm,
myself. And so I guess what that led to for me was really having to, yeah, take a minute, like take a really close minute and to say, okay, like what do I want from not only my personal or my professional life, but also what do I want in my personal life, like having something to work towards, and something to be able to look back on and be proud of, I think was something that was really important to me and something that I was really lacking. And so yeah, I started to get serious about, I don't know, maybe 5, 6-ish years ago. I started to get really yeah, really, really focused, and it's always a work in progress, right? And I think
yes.
that's one thing I really want, you whoever's listening to take from this is that yeah, we're not showing up with the answers. We're not showing up with like this is how you do it. It's just kind of things that I guess we've picked up along the way, or things that I've picked up along the way, and being able to create a space to kind of share those things. And to know, I think too, that there are a lot of people out there who are in the same or similar position as well. And so I know for me, like when, yeah, I was super like, in that headspace of, yeah, I don't really have a word. I don't know what the description word is for right now, but I was in a much different place in my mind. And that was the first thing I always thought, right? Was that I was the only one. I was the only, like,
Mm.
call it a quarter life crisis or whatever they call it, but maybe I was going through one of those. I still could be going through one of those. But anyhow, yeah, just to, kind of uh yeah, and working through it, and just being able to really show up now in a different way. And yeah, what I was or where I was going with that was that one of the things I always thought was that I was by myself, right? I was alone, didn't always really know where to connect into. And then yeah, along comes this beautiful virtual world, right? Of like people and spaces that I've really been able to utilize, I think, in terms of my wellness, and just kind of being able to get back on track with a few things. So um yeah, I think that's probably what I would like to. Oh, maybe I actually, before I pass it over to you, Tiff, I'll just talk a little bit about the inspiration for my why of this podcast.
Mm.
So for my own personal why, I had alluded to it before, and I know Tiff, you and I chatted about it earlier too, but yeah, the friendship that we have is something I really value, the space in terms of being able to just be acknowledged. Like one of the things is that we don't really try to fix anything, right?
Yes.
It's like show up as you are, and I'm here to listen. And yeah, a lot of people, I think, sometimes, when people are going through stressful times or going through lots, we kind of have a tendency to fix, right? Or to, like, here, let me do what I can to make it better. And sometimes the truth is that there is no way to make it better. So I guess my personal inspiration for the why behind this podcast for me is to just be able to maintain a space that I know I have that's safe,
Yes.
that I know that's authentic, and yeah. So anyways, I'm excited, super happy that
Woo!
this has led us here. And yeah, I'm going to hand it over to you, Tiff, to let us know, yeah, anything that you want to share about you.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Jess. I just love hearing those pieces. I know we've talked and you and I have went round and round about, something that has stood out to me from day one and why this has been such an easy piece to put into place. This podcast is just the alignment in our values of what we want to bring to people. And that is really around providing, co-creating a space together where we can show up as our whole selves, not as this like professional version or not as this like publicly accepted version where you can show up and see yourself in our stories or, have aha moments in our journeys and things that, that we're just learning and growing together and that it makes it more attainable. Like it's not this abstract thing of how to grow. It's like, oh, it's just the realness of being a human. And Jess, you mentioned something around like, reflecting on our experiences, being able to have those reflection practices so that we can change how we show up in our relationships if we need to, or change how we show up in our professional lives, change how we show up in our personal lives. Like whatever it is that we're hoping to grow into is available to us. It's just sometimes we might need some resources or some spaces or some places where we can show up imperfectly, masks off, and just be ourselves. So I'm really excited to be here in this space as well. I share that awesome energy of like, this is a space where we hope people can really show up and grow with us or take what you need to take from it. So I wanted to share a bit of a funny story. So my story is a little bit different than Jess's in terms of my connection to this work. And I'll start there first. But back when I was in my late teens, early 20s, I had I had a mental health crisis. Things really went off the rails for me. I was in university, pressure to perform. I was such an achiever, was so high that it was debilitating. And once I reached that point, it was a breaking point. There was like something needed to give. And so I was challenged a lot with addiction and an eating disorder and some other mental health things that were coming up for me. And it sparked me on a very long journey with getting to know myself and like, who am I? What are my limits? What am I passionate about? Like, what are all of these pieces that make Tiff Tiff? And, it was in that place of discovery and like in and out with the mental health sector that I stumbled into this line of work of really, it's called peer support, if you're not familiar with it, but where we really show up and we support people just in the spaces that Jess and I create for each other, where it's like, we don't need to fix people. We don't need to rescue them. Our solutions are usually not even wanted, but yet as humans, we step into this role of like, I really want to help. And sometimes the best helping thing we can do, which is a big component of peer support, is listen, is to give our presence and to allow them to have their human experience that they're having without judgment. And when I stepped into that line of work, that was such a healing space for me in my own journey because I was now able to give back from a space where I had learned so much and gathered along my journey. And now I knew that all the solutions that were thrown at me over the 7 to 10 years that I was on that mental health journey, of trying to find stability, it didn't help. So now I could take my firsthand experience and translate that into helping other people. And that has lit me up for the whole next decade of my life. So, and I'm still in that work now to a different capacity, but a story that I wanted to share that is really relevant about how long I've been talking about wanting to do a podcast or to something of this nature where I would be speaking is it was one of my early shifts. I was working in acute mental health care. My role was to really to be in there and to help people feel seen, heard, and understood, witnessed in some of their distress and their pain. And we hosted a weekly coffee group to bring people in and give resources and such. And I walked into the room and a person ushered themselves over to me. They grabbed my hands and I was like, okay, I'm here for the ride. They looked at me and they're like, I'm psychic and can I read something? There's something coming off of you. And I was like, kind of just like laughing along. I was new in the job. I honestly didn't know what to expect. And he held my hands out and he stared so deeply into my eyes and he said, "You're going to have a famous talk show." And I just thought that was the funniest thing. I burst out laughing and I was like, "Oh, that's funny." I was like, "Yeah." I said, "Well, I do love to talk. So if there was ever a way I could make a career out of talking, I mean, sign me up." And I was just, feeling silly. But that moment, that happened around the same time I met Jess. That moment has never left me. And we joked, me and my partner have joked about like, what would I call it? What would we talk about? And so when Jess and I reconnected, she was talking about us reconnecting in voice notes on our like a pretty much daily basis. Just the magic of that space of what we could create. And then the podcast idea started coming up because we were essentially sending podcast voice notes back and forth anyway. So why not take that and make it viewable content or like content you can listen to? Because yeah, I want to use the word again. It just feels like magic when we can hold space for one another's stuff, whatever is going on. Sometimes it's the highs, sometimes it's the lows, sometimes it's somewhere in between, but holding that space for us to figure out what we need. Sometimes there's a curious question or two in there, but there's never judgment and there's never this ushering away. So I'm really excited for us to translate that into this space for everyone else to come and co-create with us as well as you listen along. And yeah, I guess that's really it. I'm just really enthusiastic and really excited to dive into the inner work. And something that Jess and I did talk about is like the topics we bring grounds us deeper into our own inner work as well as we're bringing them here. So this is for us as well. So this is for us. It's for you. It's take what resonates and leave the rest kind of deal. And if you're into growth and wellness and mental health and maybe even a little spirituality, you're in the right place.
Awesome. Yeah. It's so funny that you were talking about those voice notes. And as you were talking about that, I was like, oh man, I remember, when we talk about connection or when we look at like holistic health and wellness, right? We have like physical, to me, it's what this means anyway. We have physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. And so one of the things I remember is like those 45 or like 50-minute, walks that I would do, like as I was like listening to your voice note and then having the opportunity to respond to. And then like that got me out and like moving for like almost an hour every single day. And so I
Yeah.
don't know, I was just like reflecting on like I think that that was also really helpful for me at that point as well, just to, get out and be able to fill like my mind with some good stuff and move
Yeah.
my body too. So yeah, just so interconnected and talking about like the stars being like aligned, right? That person kind of mentioned a famous talk show host and yeah, you're on your way. You're on your way.
We're on our way.
You're on your way. And then one thing too, I just wanted to mention just about something you said about peer support. I think peer support is just such a valuable tool in any aspect of wellness, right? Like
Mhm.
we have professional folks, and not to take away from that, right? Like not to take that work is really important too. And I think oftentimes, though, one of the things that is missing is that like human connection, that peer-to-peer support. To not say like, I know exactly how you feel right now, or I've been there. It's just to say, yeah, like, I can feel some of that, right? Like it
Yeah.
feels familiar and I can hold that with you in that space. And so, yeah, I think if anything, I think, even in this space to kind of be some of that like peer-to-peer, like yeah, show up as we're your friends, right? Like show up and sit and listen and hopefully we get to build a community out of this. Hopefully this is a stepping stone to build a community. So yeah, people know that you're not alone and that there's always sometimes silly, sometimes fun, and then sometimes just really serious conversations too. And I think that one of the things that we really want to bring to this space is to show up regardless of how we feel too, right? So, I don't want to turn on this recording only when I'm having a really great day, But if we,
Mm,
plan to record whatever, day that is, and if I'm not, if I'm not feeling 100%, then to push myself to do it anyway and show up because, yeah, the truth is not every day is going to be, a great day. And yeah, so I think that's one of the values that we both share as well for this
hmm.
space.
Yes.
I guess I don't know. It feels kind of natural to say yeah, that's a bit about the podcast, our whys, making that connection between growth mindset, wellness, just, and we say all these things today and yeah, just again fully transparent to say that, we have talked lots about the things that we want to talk about and also we have landed on the value of flexibility. And so if this goes in a different direction sometimes, then it goes in a different direction sometimes.
Yes.
And yeah, no rigidness here. And so hopefully this gave a little bit of insight of the things that you might be able to tune into and hear us talk about. We've talked about topics, things like compassion, or whether that's, leaving love notes to ourselves and what that looks like. And yeah, I can't wait for that one already. It's gonna be awesome. Abundance and like what does abundance even truly mean and how do we apply it, I guess, like to wellness or how do we take, the steps to get there? And then other core values too, I think about belonging and our inner work. So yeah, so all of those cool fun things to get to eventually.
Hmm.
For now, I guess what I could say is that we do have a link tree and I'm going to put the link to that in our show notes. And so I don't know for anyone who's listening, I'm using all of this podcast lingo, really trying to step into the world of podcasting. So I really hope it makes sense.
Killing it.
Um, yeah, and so on our link tree, we'll have links to like our Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all of which is this same tag. It's just at Soulfull the podcast. And then, our email is soulfullthepodcast@gmail.com as well. And so one of the things that we also want to, build into this podcast, I think, is like engagement. So
Yes.
yeah, you can email, send some feedback. And yeah, we'll kind of, I guess, in the next few episodes, kind of um see how what other things that engagement's going to look like. Um, I think with that, those are, yeah, you can rate and subscribe and yeah, all of those other things that you do to podcasts that you listen to that you like.
Hmm.
And stay tuned for the next podcast, which will be in exactly 2 weeks from today. We are bi-weekly every second
Tuesday.
Tuesday. Yeah, there. Thank you. It's like, yeah, yeah, Tuesday, every second Tuesday. And yeah, so stay tuned for the next one. And I guess we'll talk to you then.
Yeah. Can't wait. Can't wait to see you again.
Awesome. All right, till the next time, I guess we can say stay soulful.
Thanks for tuning into Soulful. We hope you found something meaningful to carry with you on your journey. And if you enjoyed today's episode and want to show your support, we invite you to subscribe, share the podcast, and leave a review wherever you listen.
And if you're eager for more, you can connect with us on Instagram and Facebook at Soulfull the Podcast for additional content and updates. Until next time, stay soulful.